Hello, everybody. Sorry. Um, if you watch my stories on Instagram, you'll know that I've been eating celery. Or if you saw the thumbnail, you know that I've been eating celery. And you know when you chew celery, when you're getting down to the end of it, and there's just like it almost feels like you're a cow chewing cud. You just have like the stringy bits that are turned into a ball, and they're impossible to chew apart. That's what I got stuck finishing up. Sorry if that's gross, but it's the reality. That's what happens when you chew celery. So I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. All right. Today we're talking about digestion, bloating, and problem solving. A relevant topic. There's a reason why I'm eating a whole bunch of celery right now. So we're going to go over that and hopefully inform you on a bunch of stuff and give you a bunch of solutions. So if you're joining the live, please hashtag your win and then we'll get into the topic here. So my win to start things off. Let's see. I gotta come up with non-training wins. My win is getting back on top of my veggie intake. So my story, my update, the reason why I'm crushing celery right now is I did not eat enough veggies yesterday, and I have been bloated as all heck today. So I gotta show you the photo. Oh, hold on a sec. I gotta find it. You guys. You have to see this. Trust me, it's enjoyable to watch. I'll turn the volume down. Now this is the reality. So, oh, can you see it? Wait for it. Wait for it. And oh, that's real life. That was 15 minutes ago. That's how I feel right now in my body. Just distended, bloated, yuck. I didn't drink enough water yesterday. I was pasty mouth all the way through my workout today, which is clear sign. If you're in your workout and you got the dry pasties in your mouth, you haven't drank enough water, and that's a pretty clear indication. So that was me through my whole workout. Pretty clear that I didn't get enough water in yesterday. Um, just as a side note for hydration and workouts, I could have fixed this morning. Water does not take a long time to get through your system. If an hour before or an hour and a half before your workout, you know you haven't drank enough water, get a whole bunch of water in because you can hydrate quite quickly, and it'll make a big difference in your workout. So, but once you're there, it's too late. Once you're there and you're working out, you don't have the time anymore to catch up on hydration. So if you have pasty mouth, you haven't had enough hydration, and it can impact your digestion. I also didn't sleep super well last night. That can impact your digestion quite profoundly, actually. And then the other thing that I did, I think I mentioned this, was I just did not do a good job at getting my veggies in yesterday. I got some, but not to my normal and not to a sufficient amount of fiber. And fiber is very important in terms of regulating your digestion. So, backstory on that lovely bloating video that you saw there, and why we're talking about this today, because I know it's something that's relevant for everybody. We got a win here from Shannon. I'm all signed up for the WhatsApp group. I love it. Krista, win. I found didn't mind lunges today. Nice. That lunges and Bulgarian split squats. A few other exercises are, for some reason, just have that extra little bit of mental grueling effect to them, and it's awesome that you didn't mind them today. I definitely have had phases of that, and I kind of like comes and goes where I really like lunges, and then there's times where I just dread them. But yeah, it's fun when they're not like, you're not sitting there being like, oh my god, I gotta do another set. It's a good win. All right, so digestion. Why your digestion might be kind of crappy, and goes back to kind of what I was saying. So there's a few things. There's things that we want to include, and there's things we want to exclude. All right, so let's go through this with the things that you want to include first. These are typically the things that people are lacking the most, and it really does kind of mesh together. And you'll see that when we get through this here. So Digestion issues often happen just because we are getting sufficient water intake and fiber on a nutritional level. All right, so water regulates everything in our bodies. I've done entire lives on water, and I probably should do another one soon. Um, our bodies are like 70% water, and everything that happens, every chemical reaction that happens in our bodies, so every metabolic process, all digesting food, turning food into energy, turning food into storage, turning food into hormones, turning fat into energy to burn, turning stored energy into ATP to use as immediate energy. Like all of this stuff, everything revolves around water. It's a clear example of like how impactful water is to your digestion. Is don't drink water for like, I don't know, 8 hours, and then try to eat something really dry. How hard is it to actually get that down? It's like it just turns into a powder in your mouth, and you can't formulate it into a bolus, which is what we swallow. It's when we chew our food, we chew it into a bolus and then we swallow it. It's a fancy nursing term for it, but we can't condense food. We can't emulsify it into that bolus to swallow. We need water to get that down. And if it starts here, imagine that all the way down through your system. If you don't have enough water through your whole digestive tract, which obviously we can't choose where the water goes, but if we're sufficiently hydrated, we know that the digestive tract has enough water. And if we don't have enough water, it's pretty clear. I mean, makes sense that things are just going to be sluggish. They're not going to move very well. When we're talking about like indigestion and bloating, the reason that happens and happens way more readily when you don't have enough water is now there's not enough stuff in your body to move it through, and so it gets stuck, and it kind of like as your gastric juices break it apart and start trying to move it through your bowel system, your large intestines, your small intestines, and then your bowels, it just starts to create more gas and more fermentation because it's just hanging out for too long, and there's not enough stuff mixing in there to make sure that it actually like moves smoothly the way that it should. And my favorite example, I've used this. I use this typically in terms of just like water in general, not necessarily digestion, but it's kind of extra funny in digestion because there's a little bit of a double entendre here. Think about it like a river system, right? Think about your whole digestion tract, your digestive tract as a river system. If that river is dry and you're trying to transport logs, that's a double entendre. If you're trying to drive drop logs, oh my God, now it's getting out of hand. If you're trying to move logs through that river system from point A, your mouth, to point behind, and you just don't have enough water, things are going to get stuck. They're going to get sluggish. You're going to, like it just, things aren't moving smoothly anymore. There's log jams. And if you have a fully like flowing water system, you've got like that river is full and there's, you got all the hydration. That riverbed is like full to the banks. Those logs flow right freely through and there's no issues. So again, water, hugely important. I hope that kind of gross analogy helps you understand that a little bit more and how that actually happens. And so it's not just like drink water, but you have better digestion. You actually understand why that happens. So super important, making sure that you have enough water. The next thing to add in is to make sure that you're getting enough fiber. So there's two different types of fiber. There's soluble fiber and there's insoluble fiber. I'm not going to go into too much depth on those. Long story short, they do opposite things. One helps, they're both super important, but one helps to bulk things up in your digestive system, and one helps to move things through, right? So, getting enough fiber is really important, and you're going to get both soluble and insoluble fiber from the same sources. So the main goal here, before we get like way too analytical about things, is just keep an eye on MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. You can look at the nutrition, like the micronutrient stats on there, and see where your fiber intake is. It should be somewhere in the ballpark of 30, I would say 30 grams as a minimum daily. Most people are like 15 to 20 because not a lot of people like to eat veggies and fruit. And so that's where we get the primary sources of our fiber. All right. So, like I said, the fiber, it's going to help with bloating too, because bloating is a byproduct of insufficient or ineffective digestion. Like I said, things don't move as well as they should. And so we get gas that accumulates and gets trapped, and that causes the bloating. It's quite uncomfortable. I know everybody here has experienced that. It sucks. Um, so make sure that you have enough fiber, make sure that you have enough water. There's other, sorry, I got to take a drink here. My mouth is still a little pasty. Other things to factor in here. Those are like the two most important, I would say, the most important nutritionally to add in. All right. Now, there's lifestyle factors that matter as well. Stress, poor sleep. Trying to think what else. I would honestly say that those two are the primary ones. Of course, we have like menstrual cycles. Menstrual cycles can often cause a lot of bloating and discomfort, and there's not a whole lot we can do because that comes hormonally. But outside of that, the lifestyle factors that you can control are sleep and stress. If stress is really high all the time, it can cause more digestive issues. It doesn't guaranteed, but pretty high correlation. And poor sleep. Poor sleep absolutely impairs digestion. So, even like I had one kind of bad night of sleep, and I'm throwing that in there as a factor on top of multiple factors as to why my digestion doesn't feel very good today. But if you have poor sleep and everything else is lined up, you might not have any digestive issues. If you have sufficient water intake, really good sleep, stress is low, and you just didn't get enough fiber in, you might be totally fine. It's typically when these things start to compound. Right. Now, there's things that you want to exclude to make sure that you are not dealing with poor digestion and bloating. And this one's fairly simple because if you're following the 80-20 method, you're going to be totally fine. But the main things that cause a lot of bloating and indigestion or sluggish digestion, or, if you're, I'm a nurse, so I talk about this stuff freely. I apologize if this is gross to you guys, but if your bowel movements are too loose or if your bowel movements are too firm, that can be a cause of different foods. Right. So I want to be careful when I say that because a lot of people instinctually think protein causes constipation. Protein doesn't cause constipation. The poor ratio of protein to fiber causes constipation. You can eat as much protein as you want as long as you're eating fiber with it. So good, clear that up. It's the processed foods and the high sodium foods that you're not really going to be getting too much of if you're eating an 80-20 method. But if you're not eating 80-20, you're eating like a lot of deli meat, like lunch meat kind of stuff. You're eating a lot of canned food type stuff. A lot of anything packaged and processed they use sodium as a way to help preserve the food. And when sodium is really high, it causes issues with digestion and it can cause a lot of bloating. It can also cause a lot of water retention because sodium is hypertonic, meaning like salt and sodium are different. Sodium is one of the main parts of salt. Salt and sodium are different, but they can have the same effect. So you know that water is drawn towards salt. If you have salt, it starts to draw water out of your cells. And so maybe not everybody knows that. That might be a nursing thing. But sodium does the same thing. So it's going to draw water out and it's going to make you feel drier, which causes water retention and bloating. It shifts the water from where it needs to be into what's called intracellular compartments. So it adds water into different areas of your body and it gives you that kind of like bloated, watery feel. Right. So high sodium, High processed foods, those things are very, very strong culprits of digestion and bloating issues. Um, Honestly, even just eating foods you're not used to can often cause a little bit of digestive stress. Our bodies have a memory to what we eat, and when we introduce brand new foods, sometimes that can cause issues. Even if it's not a brand new food, but it's a food that you don't regularly eat, it can cause issues. It can cause water retention, bloating, all that sort of stuff. Right? There's something else I wanted to add to this topic here. Give me 1 second. It's going to come to me. Right. So those are all the main culprits, easy stuff that we can think about. Let me see. I'll throw that in the chat here. So include. We're gonna do. I do this every time. Water. Yeah. Nope. It's gonna still send. Water. Fiber. And good sleep. Things to exclude. I don't have to put this stuff in the notes here. I just think it might be handy for people to come back and be able to look at if you want to see it again. So I'm going to toss this in here, but let me know, you guys, if you don't look at this again and you don't think that this is helpful, then I'm not going to spend the time because you guys are here listening, waiting while I type this. So things to exclude are processed foods, packaged foods, high sodium, alcohol, high sugar. I didn't go over those, but you can just toss that in there. Anything with alcohol will always cause water retention, often causes digestive and bloating issues. In moderate amounts, it doesn't really matter. But if you've ever had especially there's certain alcohols, especially like fermented stuff, beer, what else? Anything that's got like any sort of wheat product in it while it's fermented causes a lot of bloating and digestive stress. So those are the things to eliminate primarily. All right, now these are like the easy check. These are the simple things to check off. Having all of this here doesn't necessarily mean that your digestion is going to be perfect because some people have more finicky digestive systems. Casey is one of those people. Her system, she can tick all of these boxes, but her digestion still can be kind of crappy. And we get really, really into like individualized stuff here and way more scientific stuff as well around stomach acid, pH, and that sort of thing. And so if you still have digestive issues and you've ticked off all of these boxes for a consistent, regular amount of time, then the next thing that you want to do is, always talk to us. But the next thing we're going to recommend that you're going to do is to follow a low FODMAP diet. So I can send you a list. Maybe I'll upload this in the announcements once I give myself access to it. I'll upload a link on the low FODMAP diet. It's quite simple. You can Google it. It's a very popular. It's not like a diet. It's a foods list. I'll get to that question in a second here, Krista. So the FODMAP diet is a foods list essentially, and it's going through. I can't remember off the top of my head what FODMAP stands for, but it's fermented. Casey, can you look up FODMAP just so I can say what it actually stands for? But it's basically a list of foods that are prone to causing digestive issues that are more acidic in nature generally. So on that list, you're going to find all kinds of like spicy stuff. Okay, FODMAP, fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. I'm gonna have to figure out how to say that word again. So basically, I can't say this word. Oligosaccharides, disaccharides, and monosaccharides are different. Here, Case. are different structures of sugars. It's a On a molecular level, it's like a different chain of what it actually looks like, but they're fermentable, meaning there's certain foods that cause fermentation, which has lots of gas and everything as a byproduct. So you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna find foods that are like pretty much anything that has spice to it, anything hot and spicy is going to be on that list. You're going to find nightshade veggies. The main one that people will see are it's really anything red, anything tomato based, sauces, tomatoes themselves, tomato paste, that sort of thing, and a variety of different foods there that are fit into that fermentable list of different sugar structures. Sorry. All right. So when you go on the low FODMAP diet, you're eliminating all of those foods. And if that solves your issue and you feel comfortable, you don't deal with digestion issues and bloating nearly as much anymore, it's rather infrequent, you can start to one by one, and this is the important part, one at a time, reintroduce foods back into your diet. If you reintroduce tomatoes and your issues come back, you can't eat tomatoes because it's something that your body just doesn't process well. It's going to be Tomatoes are high acidic foods, and if you have already high acid pH just naturally, then that's going to be something that's going to cause you issues, right? Spicy foods, those sorts of things. If you bring tomatoes back in and it doesn't bother you, you're good to go. Then bring in like salsa. See if salsa sets you off, and you can start to trial and error, and that way you can find the foods that are causing you issues and the ones that aren't causing you issues. And that way you can really narrow it down and find what works best for you, right? And then, of course, from there, we can go like into a whole different list. This is like a full call in itself and a complex one of talking about different ways to manage stomach acidity or basic, like if your stomach acid is too basic, that sort of stuff. So you've heard of people taking glutamine. Glutamine works when somebody's stomach acid is highly acidic. You've also probably heard of people taking apple cider vinegar to help with digestion. That works for people whose stomachs are a little bit too basic. You need to increase the acid. But if you are a high acid stomach producer and you take apple cider vinegar, you're probably going to end up getting acid reflux and feeling way worse than you did before. If you're on the other side, your stomach acid is a little more basic, and you take glutamine, your digestion issues are just going to kind of compound, right? So this is where we don't want you guys trying to do that sort of stuff on your own. Let us help you with that because it gets really individualistic, and there's different sorts of things, even lab work, that we would need to look at to make sure that we're doing the protocols that are going to be the best for you. All right. That pretty much wraps up the call here. So Krista had a question. Is there a difference between table salt and Himalayan pink salt in regards to digestion? Not so much. Table salt is just ionized salt. Excuse me. And so your body, it's a little bit more refined. I'm not going to say processed, but it's a little bit more refined. And honestly, the difference between the two of them, you're not really going to notice. I prefer Himalayan pink salt because I think it tastes better. But in terms of like real life application, you're not going to notice a difference. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. You can Google stuff around that and you'll probably read all sorts of different stuff. But keep in mind that a lot of times when we look at like little nuanced things like what type of salt to use, the actual reality of how much effect that it has is very, very minimal. And so it's often not something to even stress about. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there. And that's it for us today. We're on 25 minutes here. I know this call is getting long, so we'll wrap it up. If you have questions around digestion or foods or any of this topic, fire them off now, and I'll answer them while we're still on the call here. But If we wrap up, shoot them to us on Everfit. You can ask them in the WhatsApp group. You can ask them to us here and just tag us, and we'll get back to you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining the live today. I hope you all had an amazing Thanksgiving weekend. Speaking of bloating and digestion issues, I'm sure that was something that came up with all the different rich foods over the weekend. So hopefully this call is relevant to y'all, and have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll talk to you very soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming, Krista and Shannon, and everybody else who's here. I actually can't see. There's a third person here, but thank you. We'll talk to you soon.